All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're on the case of an incredible real-life mystery. It's a story full of clues, super smart science, and some amazing young heroes. Welcome to The Science Detectives of Wadi Fidda.
So, picture this. Our story is set in a place called Wadi Fidda in Oman. For a long time, part of this area was completely dry. But then, something totally amazing happened. Water started to flow again, and gone for years just came back. It was like magic. But it was also a huge mystery.
And that's the big question, right? How does a hole reappear out of nowhere? What in the world was going on? Well, you know every great mystery needs some brilliant detectives to crack the case. So let's meet the investigators who stepped up to solve this incredible puzzle. Here they are, our heroes, Shaika Sultan and Shaika Saeed. And get this, they're fifth graders. Yep, just like Aladia. They saw this amazing thing happening in their own village and decided they were going to use science to figure it out. Now, you can't just solve a mystery with your bare hands, right? Of course not. Our science detectives needed a special kit to start gathering their clues and all the evidence. And you have got to check out their toolkit. So cool. They used a digital thermometer right there at their school to measure the temperature on the ground, but they also used a super high-tech tool, a NASA satellite way up in space to get data from above the Earth. How awesome is that? Okay, with their tools ready to go, Shaika and Shaika started their investigation. It was officially time to hunt for clues. So their first question was actually pretty simple, but it was super important. Was the air around Wadi Fidda changing? First things first, they had to check the temperature. And boom, here's their very first piece of evidence. Just look at this table. In October of 2018, the hottest it got was around 41 degrees Celsius. But just a few years later, that jumped up to almost 43 degrees. The same thing happened in November. The first clue was staring them right in the face. It was definitely, for sure, getting hotter. Now, our detectives looked at this thing called the daily temperature range. It sounds kind of sciencey, but it's really simple. It's just the difference between how hot it gets in the afternoon and how cool it gets at night. You know, like the difference between playing outside when the sun is blazing versus that chilly feeling right when you wake up in the morning. And what they found was that this range was getting bigger. The data proved it. The days were getting hotter and hotter. This was huge. It was a major clue in solving the entire mystery. So a hotter temperature was one piece of the puzzle for sure. But what about the water itself? The detectives had to ask, was the rain changing too? Okay, this is where that awesome satellite data comes in, and wow, did it reveal the biggest clue of all. Look at this chart. For years, from 2018 to 2023, there was almost no rain. It was super low. But then, bam, look at 2024, a massive spike. It just started pouring. Let's just let that sink in for a second. For 6 whole years, basically nothing. And then, all of a sudden, a ginormous amount of rain fell. This wasn't just a little change in the weather, no way. This was a gigantic shift. The mystery was getting so much clearer. Okay, the clues were all on the table. Hotter temperatures and a sudden, huge amount of rain. Now it was time for our detectives to put all the pieces together and finally unmask the culprit behind this whole mystery. So Shaika and Shaika connected the dots, and it all fit together perfectly. Check it out. The air got hotter, right? Well, that hotter air was causing more water to build up in the atmosphere, which led to much heavier rain. And all that new rain, well, it had to go somewhere. It poured right into the dry riverbed, and just like that, the river was back. So, who or what was the culprit responsible for all this? It's a term you've probably heard before, climate change. And really, that's just a way of saying that our world's normal weather patterns are changing over time. And for the people in Wadi Fidda, it meant hotter days and way more rain. Case closed. But hey, the story doesn't end there. Not at all. Because what Shaika and Shaika did, that's something anybody can do. Now it's your turn to explore. And listen up, because this is the most important thing I'm going to say today. You do not have to be a grown-up to be a scientist. You just have to be curious. That's it. I mean, think about it. What did our science detectives really use? They didn't have some secret fancy lab. They used their own curiosity. They used simple tools from their school.
They used free data from NASA that anyone can find online. And this is a big one. They used teamwork. You have all of those things right now.
And what they did really, really mattered. By finding and studying real data, these two students helped their whole village understand the huge changes that were happening, literally in their own backyard. They made a real difference. So, I'm going to leave you with this question. Just look around you, at your school, in the park, on your own street. What do you see changing? What questions do you have? What mysteries are just waiting to be solved in your neighborhood?